Hey, good morning. Chuck here with Apple Drains. Today we're working on an unusual project. We are going to be setting up a water fountain, and I'll show you the difference between an AC powered pump and a DC powered pump.
So
let's take a look.
See the power pole over here, and there's a breaker box that we're going to put our breaker in over there for the 120 volt. We're going to run a trench for our electric all the way out here to the front. And it's a windy day, so bear with me. We've already installed a sump basin out here. And what this is going to do, and you can see it's actually in the swell where the culvert is as it runs through here. What happens out here is that when it rains for an extended period of time, of course this fills up with water. And it stays here for a long time, especially here when the groundwater is high. So what we want to try to do is we want to put a sump pump in here and a collection. You can see I already cut the sod, and I'll show you that. We're going to put a small catch basin here. That'll bring the water over to the pump. And then what we want to do is we want to send a line down through here. Somewhere here in the center, between the two palm trees, we want to put a fountain. And so you can kind of get a look at it here. That basin, way over there, is going to pump the water, and then we'll put a fountain up here. Lots of ideas that we could do with that, but let's just do the plumbing portion of it. Everything's the same as if you were dewatering the yard, but we are actually watering the yard, so it's just the reverse. A lot to see here. Let's take up there where the trencher is. I'm going to go ahead and trench a line for the power. We need to be down, here the code is 12 inches. We're going to be down at least 12 inches, if not deeper, and then we'll run that electric wire. I'm going to show you how we hook that up to the breaker box, and then we're actually going to put a post out here. It will be hidden in this bed, for the power for the pump. So a lot to see, a lot to learn. Hopefully you guys can figure this out. It's a really great project for the do-it-yourselfer. If you paid a contractor to do what I'm planning to do here, you'd probably spend $6,000 or $7,000. That doesn't include the waterfall or the fountain. So a great project if you want to do it yourself.
So what we're doing is we're digging a trench for the electric line from the fence all the way out to the front bed. And you can rent this trencher for about $100. Really nice trenchers from Home Depot or Sunbelt. Either one, $100 for the day makes this job go quick.
So I don't really recommend that you let your trencher run by itself, but I do this all the time, so I'm pretty comfortable with it. But you can see what we're doing. We're going to come right up to the fence. On the other side of the fence, we'll hand dig. We'll hand dig over to that meter over there, and we'll put a breaker in there for 120 volt power. But at the same time, I'm going to run a low voltage line for the 12 volt DC, because on the roof of this house there are solar panels, and they've got a huge bank of batteries, lots of power for 12 volt. In fact, they run all the lights around the whole area. So let me go ahead and keep working, and we'll get this done here in probably just a couple hours. So a lot of traffic here by the driveway, but it's okay. They can drive over the trench anytime they want.
The bulk of this work is being done with a trencher, and I say that again because if you dig this by hand, it's going to take 4, 5, 6 hours, and a trencher makes this done in 20, 30 minutes. I mean, you're done and ready to lay your pipe, or in this case, we're laying wire.
Okay, so we've got a nice trench going for our electric. Let's go out here by the sump basin, and we'll run another trench for the discharge of the sump pump. Remember, it starts over here with the sump basin. We've already installed that, and we're going to run a line across here with 1.5 inch pipe. It will reduce.
So I suppose you could use an excavator to do this. I think the excavator would take a good hour and a half to be done, with what we're doing in 20 minutes with a trencher. Trencher works really good. There are some applications for the excavator if you're digging deep. If you're digging 4, 5, 6, 8 feet deep, the excavator works great. But a trencher does the job, and it's been doing the job for years and years. Something that I would strongly recommend if you're going to do these projects yourself, go ahead and rent a trencher. Very helpful, very helpful.
Okay, so you can see we've got the line for the pipe. I went ahead and went a little further. It doesn't matter. We could always, put a cap on it. But now we'll put a line from here, a 45 or a 90, whichever, come right over to this trench. And we'll also connect a line across here to our power supply. And we're almost done. So now we're ready to lay some electric wire. We've got a trench a foot deep, and I'm just going to end the wire right here for right now, and then we'll do some more trenching to bring it up, put a post in, and of course enough wire to do our connection. We've lost the wire. Important. Then we can just step back. We'll unroll the wire and then step it down into the trench. Pretty easy. So I'm using 14.2 underground, wire, and that's good for a 20 amp breaker. That's the only thing that we're going to run out here on the AC power. I'm also going to run an extension cord and use that just for the DC. That'll work fine, be in the same trench. So let's do that. So you could put this in a conduit if your local code calls for that, but we're actually about 18 inches deep, and it's going to be fine. Remember, this is rated to be underground. Next, I'm going to run an extension cord. Some people might think that's not what we should do, but remember, this is DC. The orange cord, that is going to be from the solar bank, from the battery bank. It does not get hot like the regular Romex, so easy to put that in, and it's about the same price as low voltage wire. So you could run low voltage wire, but this works really good. Okay, so we've got both wires down in our trench. Now for the fun task, and that's taking the rake and covering it all up. So we'll do that next.
Backfilling can be done with a shovel. You can definitely lift up the soil and push it back in, throw it back in. But I found that using a rake and pushing it like a plow or pulling it towards you is much faster and much easier. Knock this out in just a few minutes. Again, I'm all by myself, so I'm trying to give you the best tips to do these things yourself.
So depending on how much you want to clean up right away, but you want to get it covered, and that's mostly so the wire stays down. We are going to run some conduit from over here to wherever we put the post. We'll bring conduit and then come up. We'll sink a 4x4 and put our receptacle there. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and get our catch basin installed. And sorry, you can't see it. Get our catch basin. Remember, the catch basin is going to be the collection of water. This is a swell that runs through here, and when it rains and the groundwater rises, water just sits out here. I'm sure you've seen this in your neighborhood if you live in a rural area, or even in the city. Sometimes they have swells, and water sits out here for days and days, perhaps a month. So let's take advantage of that water, right? Let's go ahead and dig this out. I already cut the sod a little bit, but real simple. Pull up your sod, set it off to the side. Now we're just going to expose this area. And there should be a nipple down here, yep. Just dig it out. Something that you guys can easily do if you want to do this idea. Remember, this is kind of backwards from what we normally do. Normally we try to remove the water, but this time we're going to collect it and reuse it. So it's, we'll say, going green. But just dig it out. I hear the nipple. We're going to need a little bit more room to cut it. Let's go ahead and pull out some more soil. That's plenty. So, can you see this, the nipple right here? Normally we cut this off before we install it, but this was a project that I've been thinking about doing for a long time, and one day I thought, let's put the sump pump basin in, and that's what I did. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this nipple off. That'll work. So now we need to have collection, and this is pretty close, but let's go a little bit more. So now we're going to install a little a little catch basin right here, and a small short piece of pipe that leads over to the sump basin. Very simple. Let's open this up. What we want to do is get a little measurement. So about that far. You'll guess that as you go. Cut your pipe. Next, we want to put a slice in it, because what we're going to do is pinch it together and slide it inside of that nipple. Has to be tight. And pull it all the way in, then it expands and it makes a really nice fit. So now we can put our basin on. And there we have it. Very simple. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and cut our outlet. This is the discharge of this whole system. This is going to be 1.5 inch pipe. Just turn our sod over. We'll trench a little line. We'll have our discharge. I'm just going to do a short section just to show you how easy this is. This only takes a couple of seconds, whether it be clay, hard rock, it doesn't matter. It takes only a few seconds to do this. So the tools needed. Okay. You need your handy dandy Black & Decker. This is a Craftsman, you guys. But anyways, you need a 2-inch hole saw and a little bit of power in your drill. We're going to drill a 2-inch outlet right here. And it's just that quick. I mean, it's just that quick. So fast. Now we can set our sump pump down here in the basin and plumb the pump up, and it will discharge through this little hole right here. So let's set up the sump pump. So I'm a big believer in Zoller pumps. I think they work better than anything. My distributor asked me to try out a new pump. So we're going to do that because this is just a project that I'm doing myself. But this is called a Blue Angel. It is a 1/2 horsepower pump, cast iron body. It pushes about 80 to 90 gallons a minute, the same as a Zoller. It has a single pole switch, so as water rises, it kicks on the float, kicks on the switch, water drops, shuts it off. It works exactly the same way. It has the same thing, 1.5 inch discharge, a port, screw an 1.5 inch male threaded adapter. Then we're going to put a small riser. Don't forget to put your pressure relief hole in there, and then we're going to glue that up. I'm using an all-in-one. That means it has primer built in, good amount of glue. Go ahead and push it. Hold it down for a few seconds because it tries to push itself out. Now we're going to put a check valve on. Remember the check valve has arrows, or yours might have some type of indication. It tells you which way that water flows. Very important. Make sure that the water flow is the correct way. These are held together with stainless steel no-hub clamps. Push that on all the way tight. Use your handy dandy drill with a 5/16 inch nut driver and secure it. just as tight as your drill can make it. So now I've already tightened these two clamps here on the bottom. We're going to set the sump pump down in the basin, make the measurement. There'll be another small piece of a riser. It'll come up, remember the hole I drilled? It'll come right out through there. Let's go ahead and set this down in the basin. Remember, this pump is heavy, so be careful. It weighs about 40 pounds. Don't overdo it. It's heavy. Okay, so you can see here's the discharge line with a 90. It's not glued. It's just setting here going out. We need to make a measurement from the inside of this no hub to the inside of this coupling. I like to just use my saw and transfer the measurement. So I'll do that. We'll make that measurement and we'll put it together. Okay, so I made that measurement and secured the top no hub. All the bands are tight. Next, we're going to go ahead and put on the 90. We can put it on either one just to show you how it goes together. It goes together very nicely. Whoops. So I went ahead and made the measurement of this riser, secured all of the no hub clamps, and then you can see it just comes up. We'll glue this together. Once it comes outside, we can do whatever. We can put a no hub out here, or we can put a coupling on it and continue. Remember, we have a little trenching to do, and then we'll go down that long line where the water fountain is going to come out. Okay, let's go ahead and glue this up. Good amount of glue. I like to actually work on the top, twist it, hold it. That's the best way I like. And then we'll put it on the bottom, put it inside as well. And then we can just move it over and just push down on it. And let's let that set up. Give it just a few seconds to set up. We're done. Now we can hook a no hub onto the end of this. Remember what a no hub is. It's hard plastic, black plastic, but it's real hard. This meets code to most all plumbing. But we can put that on the end if we need to have a little twist, or we could just put a coupling on here, either one. A real quick note about how a sump pump works. I've seen some videos talking about putting it down into a T. Well, that probably does remove water, but you need something to collect the water. Notice how high this inlet line is coming from the small catch basin. It comes over. As water drops down into this pit, of course, then the float rises, comes up, kicks on, and then it discharges. As the water goes down, the float goes down, it shuts off. It works great, and it doesn't recycle. It's not burning out your pump, no matter how much water there is. However, if your inlet line is down here, you've got two lines. Say you got two lines coming in. Got another pipe coming in, another pipe coming in. This is going to just cycle water constantly. You need a place for water to accumulate for it to work properly. Water coming in down here, that's just picking up groundwater. Your pump's going to run all the time, so be aware. Okay, so finished our trench. Remember, we have this pump set up, showed you how to do that. Now we can attach with a no hub or a coupling. We'll come down the trench, make a 45, and then we're actually going to reduce down to 1 inch, and that's because we want to have a lot of pressure when it comes up and makes the fountain there in the center. We may make a wall of water. I'll go ahead and turn on the wall of water, show you what I'm talking about. It's really cool. A lot of work, but really cool project. So let's kind of review. We've got the sump pump. We showed you how to put that together. Then we brought it up 1.5 inches, and then we're going to change it back to 1 inch so we can get a lot of pressure. The 1 inch pipe will go down this trench right here, but that's as far as I am right now. It's only been 1.5 hours. It hasn't been long at all to do all this. I even covered some of the electrical. Okay, for demonstration purposes, I've added some water to the sump basin, and you can see how I plumbed this. We've got 1.5 inches, comes out 45s, still 1.5 inches, but down here we're changing to 1 inch pipe. We want to reduce it because we need more pressure for the fountain. So I'm just putting it together, and you can see this is not glued, but this will be simulating the fountain. Let's go ahead and backfill some of this area here, clean up some of this, and then we'll kick on the pump. And I'll also show you the difference between AC power and DC power. There's a lot of people that ask, can we get a battery backup? Let me show you why we don't. Okay, so I went ahead and backfilled some of it just so we can show you here. But here's the catch basin, here's the grate. So when it rains, you know, water's going to go into the catch basin. It comes through that pipe, and you can see it's filling up the sump basin. And of course, in a big rainfall, this would just be 4 inches of water coming out of here. Would be huge. So let's go ahead and plug in that Blue Angel, a half horsepower pump, and you can see where I've got the discharge line coming up. You see that pipe sticking up right there? There it is. Okay, you can see I've got the garden hose going into the basin. Remember, this is I think it's a 32-gallon basin, so it puts in about 12, maybe 14 gallons of water before the sump pump kicks on. That float has to come on. So we're going to follow the line. And remember, when it kicks on, it's going to drain that thing within just a matter of seconds. And we should see really good pressure pop up out of here. And we just have to wait. There it is. You can see it. I mean, when we reduce that down to 1/2 inch or even to 3/8, it's going to be a huge fountain. It's going to Okay, so before we put this pump in, let's take a look so you understand. This thing says it's rated at 12 gallons per minute. Now that's pretty fast. In fact, you know, I tried to find one that's very good, and it's 12 volt DC, and you can see some of the other things. It can lift water 20 feet. I don't know if you can see that, but it lifts it 20 feet. What I'm using is an adapter that's 3/4 inch, and then it goes to the garden hose. So this is an irrigation adapter. Put some pipe thread on, tighten it all up, put your garden hose. Remember, I buried that hose. We're going to go ahead and stick this in here. I brought out a 12 volt battery, which is fully charged, and we're going to hook this up. And let's just see. So I've got it plugged in, and before I show you the discharge, you can see that it's taking water out at probably 12 gallons a minute. I don't believe that because it's already been, 15-20 seconds, but you can see it is going down. Now let's go look at the end of that garden hose and see what's happening. It's just laying out here. This is a 50-foot garden hose, and you can see it's taking water out, right? And it's actually got fairly good pressure. So we might be able to use this for the fountain. But my point of this is that the amount of water that this thing moves, it doesn't even come close to an AC powered pump. Remember, this is DC, and you can see it's still taking that water out. There is no float on this pump, so when it goes down, of course, it's going to keep running, and that's not a good thing. We would have to put a float on here, but for an emergency, it might work pretty good. What we're trying to do is to create a DC powered fountain. So I think it's going to work really good. One of the things I did try was, remember, I ran the extension cord for DC power, and it's about 170 feet back to the solar bank. It loses so much amperage that it wouldn't kick on the pump. So right here, when the pump's close, or the battery's close by, it works fairly well. And you can see it's almost down to the bottom. And it's keeping up with the flow of the garden hose. See? It's actually faster than the hose. So that's pretty good. So let's talk about that more. I forgot to put my hat on. This is a Christmas video. You're supposed to be a Santa's helper. But anyways, this is looking pretty good for the battery. Remember that we're losing so much voltage, so much amperage by coming from way back over there all the way out here to the front. It's about 180 feet. It's not enough to kick on that pump. So we're going to have to build something out here, put the panels out here, the solar panels, to keep this thing charged. But yeah, it works pretty good. I'm impressed. The only thing I don't like, remember, is it does not have a float to turn it off and on. Okay, so you can see our sump basin's filling up. In other words, we've had a flood out here. I'm simulating that with a small flow from the garden hose. And again, when this is underwater, there's going to be a 4-inch wall of water come out of this pipe. It comes out of here really quick. So you can see it's above the float. It's actually would never get that high. Let's go ahead and kick it on. I'm going to plug it in right here. Give me 1 second. So it just kicked on. Look how fast this goes down. I mean, it's amazing. It's so much different than the battery. The battery does take it out, but wow, look at that. And you can see the water coming out where the fountain will be, but easily keeps up with that flow. So when this area is underwater and it stays underwater, there's, 10,000 gallons of water out here. Now, I'm not worried about the pump turning off and on. That's not going to be an issue. It's just going to keep pumping because I'm just going to let that water come up and it's just going to come back into the swell, and of course it's all going to come back here. And then when it dries out, I don't have to worry about it because it has a float, so it just stops. And the next big rain, we've got water. We could use this for irrigation. We could do many things with this. We could run more irrigation through the yard. You can see the yard could use irrigation, but not too worried about that. It usually turns very green in the summertime, not to worry at all. But we've added things like the trip trap bridge, some palm trees, other landscaping, and it would be nice to have some water just for those things. So let's go ahead and call this a video, and we will put this together. The next video will be, putting together the power and showing you how to put the breaker in. So let's review the battery. Remember, a lot of people ask, we need backup. We need a battery backup. Remember, I showed you how quickly this takes it out. It doesn't take it out very quickly. I just kicked it on and it's pumping, but it's so slow, so slow. It cannot keep up with a rainfall. There's no way. There is virtually no way that's going to keep up with a rainfall. So it's much better. I'm putting on the other terminal here so you can see it. Yes, it does remove water, but it's not designed to keep up with rainfall. I mean, it's not even close. An average rainfall, we're talking, tens of thousands of gallons for the yard or in your crawl space, either one. You can see the water coming out. Granted, it does take it out, but the cost of putting in a battery backup, tremendous. And is it worth it? No. You are much better off to buy a generator. If you're that concerned about whatever you're trying to keep dry, you're much better off buying a generator and hooking that generator up, letting it use a big pump, a real pump, to get rid of that water. I think the best use for solar power is, unless you have a tremendous amount of panels and a huge battery bank, is to do lights. And you can see these lights out front. There are 5 of these lights out here. So these are 10-watt bulbs, and they go all the way around the yard. So we're using 50 watts of power from the battery, and oh my gosh, we've got 300 feet of low voltage wire, so they work great for that. Remember, when we tried to use the pump without the battery being right here, the battery backup pump, see it down there, it lost so much voltage and amperage that it wouldn't even kick on. It's just too far from the home where the battery bank is around back. It's just too far to come and bring that power out here. So what we're gonna do, stepping backwards here, is this area is full sun, and we can just put a 15-watt panel here. That's all we need, enough to trickle charge this battery. And that battery is a marine battery, deep cycle. So when we do use it, if we decide to use battery power, there's enough pressure. I showed you the pressure out of the hose to do a small fountain. But if we really want a fountain, kind of like Las Vegas, you see that? What we need is an AC powered pump. Okay, so we're really moving along very quickly here. We're almost ready to go ahead and turn it on. We still have to wire this up, put the post in, things like that. But it's only been an hour and a half, and I'm this far, and I'm all by myself. This is a great project for the do-it-yourself. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Dreams, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you have a great day. And Merry Christmas!